Welcome to Life Stories. Sometimes, love finds us in the most unexpected ways. A mistaken hug at the airport. A billionaire who longs to be seen for who he truly is. A woman fighting for her dreams and the people she loves. When Madison and Logan's worlds collide, their lives change forever in ways neither of them could have imagined. But can love truly overcome the past, differences in status, and the fears that keep us apart? Join us as we take you on a journey of fate, love, and second chances. Subscribe to our channel to begin today's story with Life Stories. The airport was bustling with noise. An endless sea of people moving in every direction. The hum of announcements echoed through the terminal, blending with hurried footsteps and murmured conversations. I stood on my tiptoes, trying to peer over the crowd, my heart pounding with anticipation. After months away, my older brother was finally coming home, and I couldn't wait to see him. JFK Airport had never felt so overwhelming. The sheer number of people made it almost impossible to get a clear view of anything beyond a few feet ahead. But then, through the shifting figures, I spotted him, a familiar silhouette. Tall, broad shoulders, dark hair, that had to be him. My heart surged with excitement. And before I could think twice, I rushed forward, weaving through the throng of travelers, my suitcase rattling behind me. Ignoring the invisible boundaries of personal space, I threw myself into his arms, wrapping him in a tight embrace. Oh my God, I missed you so much. My voice was muffled against his chest, overwhelmed with relief and joy. Except, something was off. The chest I was pressed against was solid, way too solid. And now that I noticed, it smelled different too. A deep, sophisticated woody cologne lingered in the air, the kind of scent that exuded confidence and class. Not at all like the familiar laundry detergent and faint traces of cologne my brother usually wore. A wave of panic rushed through me. My heart dropped as a terrible realization dawned. Slowly, with mounting dread, I lifted my head. The man I was hugging was not my brother. He was a total stranger. And not just any stranger. He was tall, devastatingly handsome, and dressed in an impeccably tailored suit that probably cost more than my entire yearly salary. His dark hair was neatly styled, his features sharp and striking, and his gray eyes, cool and calculating, were locked onto me with an expression I couldn't quite decipher. Time stood still for a single, excruciatingly long moment. Then, reality hit me like a freight train. I gasped and leapt back, my hands flying to my face in sheer horror. Oh my God. My voice came out high-pitched and frantic. I hugged the wrong person. I hugged wrong. No, help. I was spiraling. Completely and utterly mortified. The man remained still, watching me with an amused glint in his stormy eyes. One perfectly sculpted eyebrow arched slightly, as if he were thoroughly enjoying my embarrassment. Well, he said smoothly, his voice deep and rich. That was unexpected. I wanted to sink into the ground and disappear. I thought you were my brother. I blurted out, waving my hands frantically as if that would somehow erase the whole disaster. He's tall and has dark hair. And I didn't get a good look, it was the reflection in the glass. The angle, my emotional nearsightedness. His lips twitched. Emotional nearsightedness? Yes, I groaned. When emotions are stronger than common sense. And you see what you want to see instead of what's actually there. He let out a low chuckle. Interesting concept. Before I could attempt further damage control, a large man in a black suit stepped beside him, radiating silent authority. Mr. Hayes, is everything all right? His voice was firm, controlled. Wait, Hayes? The name triggered something in my mind. Logan Hayes. I felt the blood drain from my face. Logan Hayes was no ordinary businessman. He was one of the wealthiest men in the country. A billionaire who actively avoided the public eye. A man whose name appeared in financial magazines but rarely in gossip columns. And I had just thrown myself at him like an overexcited puppy. I was going to pass out. Logan must have noticed my growing horror, because the faintest trace of amusement lingered in his expression. You look nervous, he remarked, tilting his head slightly. Are you afraid of billionaires? I'm afraid of embarrassing mistakes being caught on security cameras and ending up on the internet. I muttered, Understandable. I quickly scanned the crowd. Suddenly desperate to escape. I need to find my brother. I mumbled. And maybe change my identity. Move to Alaska. Logan let out another quiet chuckle. But he didn't stop me as I stumbled away. Utterly mortified. Yet, even as I vanished into the bustling crowd, I could still feel his gaze on me. As if he wasn't quite ready to let me disappear. And as fate would have it, he wasn't. Because that wasn't the last time I would see Logan Hayes. Not even close. I spent the next few days trying to erase the mortifying airport incident from my memory. It was just one of those unfortunate moments in life. Like tripping in front of a crowd or waving back at someone who wasn't actually waving at you. Embarrassing. But ultimately forgettable. Or so I thought. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. It was another chaotic afternoon at the cafe where I worked. Tucked inside JFK Airport. The rush of travelers kept us constantly busy. Some were friendly. Some were in a hurry. And others treated us like invisible machines. I had long since learned to brush off rude customers and focus on my job. I was in the middle of taking an order when my manager, Mr. Phillips, called my name from behind the counter. Madison, special order for table 12. I sighed, grabbing the tray and expertly maneuvering through the crowded cafe. When I reached the table, I plastered on my usual polite smile. Here's your order, sir. Enjoy your. The words caught in my throat. Sitting at the table, exuding an air of effortless confidence, was Logan Hayes. Of course, it had to be him. He glanced up, and the moment his gray eyes met mine, a slow, knowing smile curved his lips. Well, he drawled, we meet again. I nearly dropped the tray. You, I blurted, unable to contain my disbelief. You again? Yes, Logan said smoothly, leaning back in his chair. And it looks like this time you're serving me. There was unmistakable amusement in his tone, which only fueled my frustration. What was he doing here? The airport had dozens of cafes. Why this one? I cleared my throat, regaining some composure. I swear this isn't stalking. I muttered, setting down his coffee. Logan chuckled, his fingers lacing together as he studied me. If it were, I wouldn't mind. I felt my cheeks burn. What was that supposed to mean? I turned quickly, ready to escape, but his voice stopped me mid-step. Wait. I exhaled slowly before facing him again. Yes? He tilted his head slightly, his expression unreadable. Do you always run off so fast? Depends, I said, crossing my arms. Do you always sit at the same cafe as someone who accidentally hugged you? Maybe it's fate, he mused. Or maybe there's a limited selection of coffee shops in this terminal. I countered. Logan let out a low chuckle, lifting his cup to his lips without breaking eye contact. Since he was clearly in no rush to leave, I took the opportunity to ask the question that had been nagging me. Why are you here, really? He set his cup down, his gaze never wavering. Maybe I just wanted to see if you're as good at making coffee as you were at making awkward first impressions. I groaned. You are never going to let that go. Are you? Definitely not. I let out an exasperated sigh but couldn't suppress the small smile tugging at my lips. Logan Hayes wasn't just rich, he was insufferable. And, much to my dismay, kind of charming. For the next few days, I told myself it was just a coincidence. Logan Hayes happened to be in the airport. He happened to choose the cafe where I worked. It didn't mean anything, except it kept happening. Every single day, without fail, Logan would show up, sit at the same table, and order the same coffee. And, of course, he always made sure that I was the one serving him. It wasn't just me who noticed. My coworkers exchanged curious glances. Even Mr. Phillips, my ever-grumpy manager, seemed unusually interested. One afternoon, as I approached his table with his usual black coffee, I decided to address the elephant in the room. You do know there are at least 5 other cafes in this terminal, right? I asked, setting down his cup. Logan glanced up, the corner of his mouth twitching. Yes, but they don't come with you. I nearly choked on air. What? He leaned back, completely at ease. I like good coffee. I like good company. Lucky for me, I get both here. I stared at him, unsure how to respond. Was he just playing with me? Was this some rich guy's idea of entertainment? I narrowed my eyes. You don't even know me. Logan studied me for a moment. His expression thoughtful. Not yet. A small flutter stirred in my chest, which I promptly ignored. Well, I said, clearing my throat, if you're looking for company, there are plenty of people who'd be thrilled to sit with you. Billionaire, successful, ridiculously well-dressed, you've got options. He let out a quiet chuckle, shaking his head. You say that like it's a good thing. I frowned. Isn't it? His smile faded slightly. People usually see what they can get from me, not who I actually am. He looked down at his coffee, swirling the liquid in the cup. It gets exhausting. Something about the way he said it made my chest tighten. For the first time, I saw something beyond the smooth confidence and playful arrogance. Something real. I hesitated before saying, I guess I wouldn't know what that's like. No one looks at me and sees anything valuable. Logan's gaze lifted, sharp and unwavering. You're wrong. The weight of his words settled between us, an unspoken understanding passing in the silence. Before I could say anything else, Mr. Phillips appeared, his fake customer service smile firmly in place. Mr. Hayes, what an honor to have you here again. Logan's expression shifted, his usual mask sliding back into place. I hope Madison is taking care of you well. My manager continued, casting me a quick glance. Logan took a sip of his coffee, his eyes never leaving mine. She's doing a fantastic job. Mr. Phillips gave me a pointed look before nodding. Good. But Madison, don't stand around, get back to work. I clenched my jaw, about to protest, but Logan spoke first. Actually, he said smoothly, I'd like her to stay. Mr. Phillips hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. Well, we have other customers to serve. Logan shrugged, then have someone else cover for her. The tension was thick. I knew this wasn't a request, it was a demand. And it changed everything. From that moment on, everything felt different. Logan's presence at the cafe wasn't just a passing curiosity anymore, it had weight. The way my coworkers whispered whenever he arrived. The way Mr. Phillips eyed me with barely concealed irritation. It was as if Logan had disrupted the unspoken rules of my life, pushing me into a spotlight I never asked for. And the worst part? I wasn't sure if I wanted to step out of it. That evening, as I wiped down the cafe counter, my mind was a mess of thoughts. I needed to focus on my real problems, work, rent, my younger brother Caleb's health. But Logan had planted himself into my daily routine, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. I was proven right the next day. Logan arrived at the cafe like clockwork. But this time, instead of sitting at his usual table, he walked straight up to the counter. I need a favor, he said, his voice calm but firm. I blinked. A favor? From me? Yes. He paused, then added, I want you to have dinner with me tonight. I nearly dropped the cup in my hand. What? He leaned slightly forward, his gray eyes unreadable. Dinner, you know, food, conversation, that sort of thing. I let out a dry laugh. You do realize I'm a waitress, right? Not exactly in the same social circles as billionaires who dine in 5-star restaurants. I don't care about social circles. I shook my head. Why would I have dinner with you? Logan studied me, his expression softer than usual. Because I want to get to know you better. Then, with a slight smirk, he added, and because you want to. Too, but you won't admit it. I crossed my arms. You are incredibly full of yourself. He chuckled. I've heard that before. I sighed. Look, I appreciate the offer, but I have bigger things to worry about right now. He tilted his head. Like what? I hesitated before blurting out. My brother. He's been sick, and the medical bills are piling up. I don't have time for games. Something shifted in Logan's expression. He was quiet for a moment before saying, let me help. I stiffened. I don't take handouts. Then don't. His voice was calm, steady. Make it a deal. I frowned. What kind of deal? You cook for me for a week. He said simply, 3 meals a day, at my place. In exchange, I'll pay you, more than enough to cover Caleb's treatment. I stared at him. That sounds like a very weird arrangement. Call it whatever you want. His voice was low, Serious. But it's my offer. I hesitated, my mind spinning. I hated the idea of accepting help. But I loved my brother more than my pride. I swallowed hard. Fine. Deal. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. The restaurant was alive with warmth and laughter, filled with the scent of home-cooked meals and the hum of conversation. The grand reopening had been a success. But more importantly, it felt like a new beginning, one that belonged to both of us. I looked across the room and found Logan watching me, a quiet smile on his lips. It was a look I had grown familiar with, one that held something deeper than admiration. It was love, steady, unwavering, and real. Months ago, I never would have imagined my life turning out this way. I had been stuck in a routine, too afraid to hope for more. But Logan had changed that. He had shown me that love wasn't just about grand gestures or perfect timing, it was about choosing someone. Over and over again, no matter the obstacles. Later that evening, as we stood on the restaurant's balcony, overlooking the city skyline, Logan reached for my hand. "You did it," he murmured. "This place, it's yours again." I smiled, feeling the weight of everything we had overcome. "We did it." He turned to face me fully, his hands resting gently on my waist. "And what now?" I took a deep breath, feeling nothing but certainty. "Now, we keep going. Together." Logan leaned in, pressing a soft kiss to my forehead before whispering, "Forever." And as I looked into his eyes, I knew that for the first time in my life, I wasn't just surviving, I was truly living. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more heartfelt stories from Life Stories.